check.
No! We're gonna get this right! You know what I grew up around? You know what I grew up around? Alcoholics, junkies. I grew up around that, and I had to survive. I had to grind. You couldn't last a day in my shoes. But you don't tell me nothing about grinding. You talk about the sport of pro wrestling? That's a joke. Because every person you face has been a child. I am a grown-ass man, and I will put you in the ground and smile. You know what I'm representing? I'm representing every mutt that's out there. I'm representing everybody who said, hey man, you're too fat. Hey man, you got a bad attitude. Hey, you'll never make it. This is for the kid on the street corner on East 237. Just hanging out thinking, man, I gotta get out of this neighborhood. This is for you. Enjoy this. I enjoy being put through hell. You wanna know why? Because I believe it's God's way of punishing me for all the things I've done in my life. Yeah. It's my time now. Real easy. Relax. You've had yours.
Hello. In the wake of inevitable technical difficulties, yes, there's always that 3 to 4 minute delay of me having to fix one thing before the show starts, but we are here. Welcome, friends. Welcome, everybody. My name is Josh. Welcome to the channel. Today, it is October 14th, 2022. We have some news to go over, some things going on around the world. You might have seen up front, we got a pretty grim story, not something you like to really read about or report on, but I think it's important to know what's going on around the country, even if you don't live in the area that things are necessarily happening in, bad things specifically. But either way, I hope you're having a good Friday. Probably, well, I'd like to say I think most of you are getting out of work and about to hit the weekend, but at least for most people of my age and people I know, Friday is the busiest day, and then you have Saturday and Sunday. But if you're off, if you're working, I hope you're here, I hope you're listening, I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Okay. North Carolina recently saw another incident in America of mass shootings. Looks like 15-year-old suspect 15 taken into custody after five shot dead, 2 injured in Raleigh neighborhood, North Carolina, officials say. I've not read into this at all. I kind of just heard a bit about this. So let's get right into it. Okay. October 13th is when this was posted. A 15-year-old suspect was taken into custody after a, quote, long standoff with police in connection with a shooting that killed 5 people and left 2. I think that was my cat. Whoa. Anyway. Oh, that's why I got broke. So, a little bit of inside baseball. I don't have one of those little ring cameras or ring lights yet. So, I don't know if I can pan the camera over. But my light source for the room is literally just a light with a piece of paper taped over it. We're just going to continue. We'll fix that later. Anyway, I was wondering why it got so bright in here. Anyway, I know I feel really bad now. I was blaming my cats, and they're both just laying there. Very nice, very calm for once. Anyway. Let's get back to it. Long standoff with police in connection with a shooting that killed 5 people and left 2 others injured Thursday evening in Raleigh, North Carolina. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper called the shooting spree, quote, the nightmare of every community. The shooting unfolded in a neighborhood northeast of central Raleigh and prompted warnings for residents to stay inside. One of the fatally wounded was an off-duty police officer, Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin said. In a news conference Friday morning, Raleigh Police Chief Estella Patterson said the suspect had been taken into custody and was in critical condition. He was not identified. No information regarding a motive or the suspect's background was released. Patterson said the victims who were killed ranged in age from 16 all the way up to 52. Wow. Talk about spreading the love. They were identified as Nicole Connors, 52, Susan Carnetz, 49, Mary Marshall, 35, off-duty Raleigh police officer Gabriel Torres, 29, who was on his way to work, and a 16-year-old white male. NBC affiliate WRAL of Raleigh reported that the teen victim was James Robert Thompson. Yes. The two people who were injured were identified as Raleigh police officer Casey Clark, 33, who was treated and released from a hospital, and Marcel Gardner, 59, who is in critical condition. Tonight terror has reached our doorstep, Cooper told reporters Thursday evening. The nightmare of every community has come to Raleigh. This is a senseless, horrific, and infuriating act of violence that has been committed, Baldwin said. We have to end this mindless gun violence that is happening across our country. There are too many victims. We have to wake up. Patterson said Friday morning the crime scene was, quote, expansive and stretched over 2 miles. So, another day, another mass shooting in America. I think a lot of times when these incidents happen, they tend to get a lot of news coverage. They tend to be, they're big news stories. These sorts of things are newsworthy, are incredibly interesting to the community, to not just the community that this took place in, but every community. And most of the time, what ends up happening is a lot of officials end up saying kind of similar stuff where, who could have seen this coming? Oh, it was, the nightmare of this kind of action has made it to this neighborhood. And I have a bit of a problem with that. Only really because, not so much in the rhetoric, but because of this, I think in America, what's the word? Our understanding of mass shootings, I think, feels inherent to our existence as Americans now, and it's no longer something that we can control, or at least that's the way it's communicated by a lot of officials, and I think that's the way a lot of people nowadays tend to look at mass shootings, that these are inevitable, that these are not something that can be stopped, that this is just something that happens, something we have to live with. Mass shootings are just rainfall to some people, and I think that's not good for a society, but also to be more like frank about it, just kind of bullshit. There are countries that have gun laws, that have gun rights, and like people with the ability to own firearms and everything else. There are countries that don't have like the most restrictive gun laws, like in Japan, for example, that don't have this problem. A lot of times I think a lot of leftists and a lot of similar left-leaning people like to bring up examples like Japan and some of these other places where like gun crime is incredibly low, and kind of look to those nations as examples for where we could go with our laws. I think that's a bit of apples and oranges to a degree, only really because we're leaving out like the gun culture that's inherent to American history and American culture. Because in Japan they have very different politics and very different different format for their gun ownership. Japan was occupied for quite a while, and some of these, and because of just kind of the way the politics works around there and the way their society is structured, they don't have quite the same kind of the same relationship to firearms that more Western countries do. So I think that's a bit of a miscomparison. I think, to me at least, if you want to look at countries that have, I think, perfectly reasonable gun control laws and also have a healthy gun culture, you kind of want to look at countries. Probably the main one that I'm like well aware of is Germany. Germany has pretty basic gun control laws. It has very normal, there's nothing that's like overly restrictive. There's just basic responsibility things, keeping weapons in safes, keeping them out of the hands of kids, and just generally a requirement to be responsible with your firearms, which is something, unfortunately, in America we just don't have. In the US, we have a incredibly toxic gun culture that is not only just toxic from like a media standpoint, from a rhetoric standpoint, but it's also toxic to our society and to people who have no part of that community. If you've ever been to gun shows, if you've ever been on, quite frankly, like gun YouTube or any of those, in any of those spaces, you'll find a lot of really damaging rhetoric and a lot of catastrophizing around the ownership and around the protection, the ownership of guns and the protection of the Second Amendment. And the issue with that is that there is no American gun culture in 2022, at least broadly. Obviously, you can find communities in your local area and such that don't quite ascribe to these things, but we have a mainstream gun culture that is centered around not firearms as tools of engineering, of sportsmanship. Those aren't why guns are manufactured, and it's not how people approach firearms in the United States. People approach firearms in the United States as not only self-defense, but in their mind, broad systemic defense. So you'll see a lot of people who simultaneously will, own firearms because they're worried about somebody breaking in, or they're worried about somebody attacking them, or whatever this is. They might not have angered anybody. If you ask them who they think is motivating any attacks like that, they'll tell you, they'll be like, well, I've never pissed anybody off, or like, well, you never know. A lot of times you'll hear, when shit hits the fan, that's a lot of catastrophizing, and it's a lot of like rhetoric to keep people afraid, not just of like others, but just everybody around them. And what that does is make people paranoid. And because that makes people paranoid, obviously they go out and they buy firearms. But then as you get more deeper into that culture, what does it become next? Oh, maybe you need to, maybe you buy a firearm for home defense, right? But, then next thing you know, they say, hey, well, you want to be safe when you leave the house, right? Now you need to get a concealed carry license. Now you need to buy a whole new gun to keep on you at all times for when something happens, when you're at the grocery store, at Target, at Walmart, at the fucking McDonald's, whatever it might be. There's always this expectation that violence is coming your way, and you always need to prepare for violence. And that is a core part, unfortunately, of our gun culture here in America. It's a core central part of that. And it's damaging. It's incredibly damaging. I mentioned, gun YouTube as well. And the more you kind of dig into that community, that like 2A community, and you see it even with really, I think more responsible channels. That is like, there are more responsible and much less responsible channels with their gun rhetoric. Even the more responsible ones still will dip their toes. And they will still dip into that, anti-government. They're coming for your protection. You bought this gun to make you safe, and now the government wants to take it away and make you unsafe because they want to do harm onto you, or whatever it might be. And it gets wrapped up a lot in the culture war as well. But at the end of the day, the thing that it's all centered around is deadly weapons. And, there will be Second Amendment guys who will come in and be like, hey, these are tools, da-da-da-da-da. You guys say that. That's not the thing that you guys start out with. That's not the initial argument that anybody in the 2A community ever forwards as a starting point. It is always home defense. It's always protection. It's always these sorts of stochastic, anxiety that they're tapping into to sell products. And unfortunately, these products make their way into the hands of not just dangerous people, but people who shouldn't be around those. As many gun deaths as we have to mass shootings, it pales in comparison to the amount of suicides due to gun deaths that we have in this country. Now, suicides don't get the time in the news. They don't get coverage. They don't get anything. At most, you'll see a study come out possibly, you know, that like looks at the broad issue, but you're not going to hear about, you know, each individual suicide in your town, in your state, in your, you know, locality. You're just not, because those are all, you know, when these things happen, when people commit suicide with firearms, and committing suicide with firearms makes it what, 100% guaranteed that you're going to be successful. So, you know, when these things happen, they're looked at as personal issues, because we don't really take depression, we don't take these we don't take mental illness seriously enough to think about guns in that as part of that conversation. When it comes to suicide, you want suicide prevention, you want less guns. That's what you want, because guns are the leading way and the best way. Guns are the meta for if you wanted to commit suicide. Meaning, if you're, you know, if you're somebody who wants less people going that route and being incredibly successful very easily, you would naturally come to the conclusion that we need less guns in this country. Now, obviously, legislation around guns incredibly fraught with political polarization and political polarization is probably the best word I could use for that. You know, there are people who are more there are more left-leaning people who want to see zero guns and want to see us adopt closer to Japan's gun laws. And there are those who, and then on the far, more of the right side, and I would honestly argue most people on the right generally want to return to the Wild West. And you can go ahead and look up the murder rates and the what's the word, assault statistics from what information we can gather. It's not very good. A society where everybody's armed doesn't, you know, there's always the saying where it's like an armed society is a polite society. No. We as people are not kinder to each other, are not better to each other at the barrel of a gun. We're just not. And that belief that we are stems from either ignorance or a obfuscation of the actual problem. And a lot of people, I think, and this one's my personal opinion, I think a lot of people just like guns. And you know what? That's fine. I don't mind if you like guns. I like guns. But there's a certain amount of societal responsibility that gun owners in America need to take. There's a certain amount of understanding. Like, you know, there are people, as another broad example, there are people who like street racing, who like driving fast and that people who are into that. That's like a subculture, right? We have, you know, Fast and Furious, all that shit. Back in the day, the old ones, the good ones. But like, we understand, and those people understand, that you live in a society. I'm sorry, you can't do that. It's dangerous, not just for you, but everybody around you. You make everybody a little bit less safe when you engage in that. And again, in controlled settings, I got no problem. You know, in Germany and Sweden and a few of those other countries, I believe Sweden also has a very healthy gun culture. Most people don't keep firearms in their homes, and if they do, they're locked away. They go to the range, you know, once or however many times a week. They go to the range, they shoot, they go home. You know, they either clean their gun, put it away in a locker at their local range or armory, or B, they go home, they clean their gun, they put it in their safe. Their society isn't, they admire and have a culture around guns that is healthy. We simply don't, and we need to fix that. And a big part of that is reckoning with the fact that all of these guys who are Second Amendment, you know, quite frankly, extremists, you're part of the problem. And not only are you part of the problem, you're actively harming others with your fervent insistence on this mass gun ownership, mass defensive citizenry. No, we got to get a hold of this stuff. Anyway, how's everybody's Friday doing? I know this is kind of a heavy start a bit, but let's take a look at the actual reporting really quickly. And then, whoop, the audio is muted. Probably would help to be able to hear.
We have an officer down. Officer struck in the leg.
This morning, officials say it was a single gunman who left a trail of terror across one Raleigh, North Carolina neighborhood, firing shot after shot, killing 5 people and wounding at least 2 others.
A large police presence here. They're just trying to find out what happened.
Among those killed, an off-duty police officer who was sitting in his car. One witness, who does not want to be identified, says she saw the officer's final moments.
We heard the gunshots. I saw him, bleeding out in the car.
That would be the officer, the Raleigh police officer.
The off-duty cop, yes, sir.
It set off a nearly 4-hour manhunt, with officials combing the neighborhood, redirecting traffic, and warning residents to stay inside. Robert Anderson says he saw the gunman from his deck.
He had a camouflage shirt, camouflage pants. He had black boots.
Cringe.
And he also had a backpack that was just looked like it was filled to the brim.
He says his demeanor was eerily calm.
He was walking. And when I tell you he was walking, it was like nothing had happened. And he was just walking, looking straight forward. He had his gun on his side and it was pointed downwards, and he was just walking.
Officials finally tracked the suspect to a nearby barn where he was holed up inside and ultimately taken into custody. Police are releasing very few details about the alleged shooter or his injuries, only that he is a juvenile and a white male. This morning, law enforcement...
Do I need to say it? Do I need to say it? Also, admittedly, I was being a bit facetious there, but there is a proper explanation as to why the stereotype of mass shooters is juvenile white males. And it's mainly because the gun culture, again in the US, is centered around white males. Go to a gun show, it's a lot of what you're going to see. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But again, this culture is not one that is interested in firearms, is not interested in, a range shooting or competition shooting. There are those are sub communities within the 2A community. You go to any of these gun shows, you're going to see anti-government, specifically anti-Democrat, but also very pro-Trump, and pro-Confederacy. You're going to see a lot of Confederate flags flying, a lot of come and get it rhetoric, a lot of don't tread on me flags. That's what you're going to see a lot of. A lot of people blustering, pumping their chest about their firearms. It's become part of how they communicate to the world who they are. These shows are, if you've never been, I implore you to go attend one. They're usually fairly cheap to get in. But go and kind of look to see what's, the people who are selling merch and everything else. Some of it is really benign, people selling hot dogs, people selling, usually there's some window, replacement going, there's some window replacement company from your local area that's there. Sometimes, there are those local little things, but you look deep, you look deep enough and you're going to see the blood running through that convention. You're going to kind of see the pulse, and it's uncomfortable. It really is. It's uncomfortable. Now let's finish this up.
Agencies around the country are sending support for a police department and an entire community shaken to their core. Now, this morning, police are still investigating.
And this is nothing new. The honest to God problem with this, aside from the fact that, like, you know, this shooting happened, is this isn't anything new. This is something that we've seen, you know, how many times? How many stories have you seen of this sort of stuff? You know what I mean? Like, how many mass shootings have we been through in different states, different locations? You know, I think that, you know, there was like the grocery store, I think in like Buffalo it was, you know, obviously schools being, you know, places that you wouldn't be shocked hearing about this now. And that's unique to America, and we need to get a handle on that stuff. And a first step to that is going to be fixing our relationship with firearms. You know, that's just, you know, we don't fix anything until we fix that. So, yeah. But we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go change some laundry, and then we'll be right back. We're going to be coming back with the Jan 6. So I want kind of a through line for you to think about that shooting, the gun culture that I spoke of, and then we're going to roll into the Jan 6 hearings that were from, what day was that? That was probably Wednesday, I want to say. So, see you in a couple minutes. All right. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Josh. Let's keep it moving. So, we spoke before the break about gun violence in North Carolina and kind of the gun culture that we have in the U.S. Let's take a look at an aspect of it that I think kind of grows when you start engaging with American gun culture, and specifically the 2A community. Okay. So, January 6th, we all know what this is. We all know what happened. Or at the very least, we have kind of an idea of what happened. So, as these hearings have gone on, they've been pretty revealing as to how much information we had about what was going to happen. So, you know, when everything was happening on Jan 6th, I think a lot of people were rightfully wondering, you know, how did we get here? You know, who could have seen this coming? Well, it's pretty obvious who could have seen this coming. The White House. And a lot of the people who were supporting Donald Trump's lie about the election conspiracies and some of the sussy behavior that was happening around that. So let's take a look. These are from the most recent hearing on Wednesday. We're just going to watch the highlights. Obviously, we don't have time to watch like all of it. But we're just going to watch the highlights here and take in what's all been going on. We haven't really looked at any of the January 6th. We really haven't talked about it all on this channel yet. So this will be a good little, I don't know, good little intro to it, I guess. Not really an intro, but let's just go.
When you look back at what has come out through this committee's work, the most striking fact is that all this evidence come almost entirely from Republicans.
The Select Committee got this pre-prepared statement from the National.
So he's making the point there that, like, you know, all of the text messages, all the emails, a lot of that sort of stuff is coming out of you know, Republican officials and Republican aid workers and amongst a lot of things. So the Republicans have been very quiet about the Jan 6 hearings recently. I think mainly because they understand that they can't really talk about it because they don't want to remind their voters that January 6th, A, happened, but B, that, you know, we're all learning more about it. You know, they don't want their voters to learn more about that day because, quite frankly, it incriminates them a lot of the time. Maybe, I don't know about criminally, but certainly public eye-wise, it doesn't paint them in a great light.
Archives. As you can see,
my back.
the draft statement, which was sent on October 31st, declares, "We had an election today, and I won."
Awesome. Let's just hope we're celebrating. I really do suspect it'll still be up in.
If you're not aware, Roger Stone, political, what's the word? Operative on the right side. I don't believe he's like super affiliated with Republicans specifically. But overall, right-wing operative, provocateur, a pretty sus guy. I think he has he was part of the Nixon administration. I think he was. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I know he has a Nixon tattoo. Really weird guy. Really fucking weird guy. If you want a really good kind of deep dive into who Roger Stone is, I would go check out John Oliver's. I think he did like a whole segment on Roger Stone. It was really good. It was from a couple years ago, but like fucking loony bin guy.
In the air. When that happens, the key thing to do is to claim victory. Possession is 9/10 of the law. No, we won. Sorry, over. We won.
Ah, yes. This responsible gun owner here with I don't know if you can see that. It's his shirt is a kind of black and white picture of Kyle Rittenhouse, has King Kyle on it. This is another one of those, when I say toxic gun culture, this is a lot of what I'm talking about. You know, I mean, he's a kid that shouldn't have brought an AR-15 to a protest that he didn't need to be at. I mean, technically, it's within his right to be there, but bringing a firearm escalates any interaction in every situation you're in. So again, this is that, like, Kyle Rittenhouse's example is not of responsible gun ownership. It's a perfect example of irresponsible gun ownership. And the right and a lot of 2A guys really love Kyle Rittenhouse. And it's not because, you know, it's not in spite of his irresponsible brandishing of a firearm. It's not in spite of that. It's because of that. It's because he went out there brazenly and, you know, what's the word? Escalated any situation he was going to be in, and ended up shooting people. And yes, it was self-defense. You know, if you watch some of the trial, it's fairly obvious that he was kind of attacked upon, and he did defend himself. That's not really, but again, it's one of those situations where all of this could have been avoided if this kid didn't go to this protest with a firearm. See, he showed up. If you're familiar with like the case and everything, he showed up with medic equipment. And he wanted to be a police officer, or at the very least, like, you know, somebody to help the community. That's his own words. I'll let him, I'll take his word for that. But if you believe that, if you believe that somebody is entering into a community, whether it be theirs or another, intending to help, offer aid, then, you know, it makes sense for him to bring a med kit, bandages, you know, all of those sort of medical things. What doesn't track with that is you also bringing a firearm. And that kid's life, understand, that kid, Kyle Rittenhouse, is a victim of the 2A community and of the toxic gun culture in this country. That kid is a victim because he thought to offer help for people, to offer medical aid and everything else, he had to bring that sort of stuff. Give me a second. Not food. That's tape. Tape. It's tape you're trying to eat. My cat was trying to eat the tape. Piece of tape. Don't get pets, people. They're so silly. They eat everything. They try to eat everything. You have to, like, stop them from, like, eating, like, pieces of carpet and shit. Anyway, where was I before I got distracted? Right. So yeah, this kid is, you know, in his mind, and like, it really, you know, his mother's activity kind of reveals a little bit about this. Cause I mean, she seems fair, you know, she seems at the very least a bit conservative to rather conservative. And understand, like, he didn't just come to the conclusion that to offer aid, I need to bring medical equipment and an AR-15. No, he was told, hey, if you want to go down there, if you want to offer aid, you got to make sure to defend yourself. And you got to make sure to bring an AR-15, you know, be ready to, like, use it and everything else. And none of that was necessary. And now that kid's life has changed, and he can't go back to being a normal person anymore. So understand, like, you know, with, you know, did he defend himself legally? Yes. Do I think it was justifiable force? Probably. But if you're asking me, do I think that, like, any of that shit matters? And the important part in my mind is how he got to that point and how he got to where he was and why he got there. And it wasn't because, you know, a friend of mine works in the ER. He doesn't take a concealed carry weapon in with him because one of his patients who come into the ER might suddenly get violent. That's just not a thing normal people do. Normal people, normal well-adjusted people, don't bring a first aid kit and an AR-15 to help people, because one of those is undermining the other. And that's what happened. And again, these guys celebrate that. They love that. Part of it, I'm sure some of them are happy that he shot people at a Black Lives Matter rally. I am sure some of them are racist. But, like, you know, you're never really gonna prove that. And I don't know if Kyle Rittenhouse is racist, but I know he says shit that not just defends, but like reinforces some of those racist organizations, some of those what's the word? Militias. You know, he's bought into that stuff because at the end of the day, that's what he's around. Like I said, his mother seems kind of right wing, so it's not all too shocking to me that, you know, he's been kind of led to this place, you know. But anyway, let's continue. It's just the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff is it's unfortunate on all sides, but also, you know, there's still lives lost. You know, people lost their lives for needless violence that was really only instigated by bringing a firearm. Don't bring firearms to rallies or to protests. Just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not a thing you should be doing, because protests are not the place where responsible firearm you know, where responsible firearms live. It's not the place. Firearms only create irresponsible protest zones.
You're wrong. You. ABC. I said let's get right to the violence. That's what I'm.
On December 31st, agents circulated intelligence reports that President Trump's supporters have proposed a movement to occupy Capitol Hill. In particular, they flagged spikes in violent hashtags like "We Are the Storm," 1776 Rebel, and Occupy Capitals.
So yeah, I mean, this is more of the gun culture. This is more of what I was talking about earlier. You know, when owning your gun isn't about going to the range, shooting, and respecting it. It's about, you know, being a rebel, whatever that ends up meaning. And that's the thing. Being a rebel, you can be a rebel to anything. If you've framed something in some kind of a overbearing authoritarian frame, like anybody can be a rebel to anything. You don't watch MCU movies, you're an MCU rebel. Are you actually a rebel? Like, what do you don't go see movies that you have all the right and ability to not go watch. But again, you can rebel against anything. Not all rebellions are created equal.
On January 5th, a Secret Service open source unit flagged a social media account on the Donald.win that threatened to bring a sniper rifle to a rally on January 6th.
Senator Schumer is at a secure location, and they're locked down in the Senate.
There has to be some way we can maintain the sense that people have that there's some security or some confidence that government can.
So yeah, like, you know, this is like, what, the day before, and somebody's wanting to bring a sniper rifle. Like, what do you bring a sniper rifle for? You know, you bring like, you know, think about what sniper rifles are for. We all play Call of Duty. We know what sniper rifles are for. You don't. When are you in that situation at a protest where you need to hold a position, like, and be the dude from Saving Private Ryan, the sniper guy? So that's a huge red flag. And again, this is Secret Service. We're kind of learning like how sus the Secret Service kind of is right now. But to the fact that, you know, the stuff, you know, people openly say this stuff, and they don't really say anything, and that's definitely not good. Certainly not good. So it's either a lack of, like, I don't even think there's a possibility to be a lack of training. That's just a disinterest in investigating people who, quite frankly, might be like you. I don't know what to tell you, you know?
Rally on January 6th.
Senator Schumer is at a secure location, and they're locked down in the Senate.
There has to be some way we can maintain the sense that people have that there's some security or some confidence that government can function and that we can elect the President of the United States. The concern we have about personal harm, personal safety.
Now, I can't tell. I'm assuming this is day of. So this is like when the riot is like properly happening and stuff. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, their first goal is to establish dominance again because, you know, they're the government. You know, they're like, can't let the inmates run the asylum or anything. But yeah.
It just transcends everything. But the fact is, on any given day, they're breaking the law in many different ways. And quite frankly, much of it at the instigation of the President of the United States.
I'm at the Capitol building. I'm literally standing with the chief of police of the U.S. Capitol Police. He just informed me.
Also, I want everyone also to realize, like, all these people who are like, everybody in that crowd will yell about how they're pro-police, Blue Lives Matter, everything else. But understand what they're doing is lying. Because they don't care about police, they care about right-wing people who are police. Conservatives who are police. Because I can tell you right now, this would never happen. If this were to happen at like a left-wing anything, it's over. It's over. Those people are getting shot, it's over, it's done. But because police generally in this country are rather conservative, the police force in this country is rather conservative, you know, these people think, oh, you know, I can just walk in. And there are going to be those who aren't either A, with them, with how conservative they are, or B, aren't conservative at all. And the minute that happens, they don't want those police. At the end of the day, the people who are protesting on Jan 6 do not want police officers unless they're conservative. They will make, and you know, we see this a lot, you know, not to throw anybody under the bus, but I had a conversation with somebody the day of January 6th happening. On January 6th, I texted a person that I know, and I asked them to explain this. They're more right-leaning and whatnot, and they have a lot of experience with police officers. You know, they've been around the block a bit. And you know what they did? I want to talk person. You know what they did? Excuses. There weren't enough officers. There was a few people, some people, things got a little out of hand. People just don't get along these days, and we can't agree on anything, and people just got out of hand, and no. These people chose to go down there. These people chose to riot. These people chose to assault police officers. But the right suddenly has no interest in talking about those lives. They're suddenly not that interested in those blue lives. So understand, Blue Lives Matter is complete horseshit, especially as an organization and definitely as a movement. Because it's not, they don't care if you're a left-wing officer. They only really care if you're a conservative officer. So let's be very clear about that.
What you will hear through official channels, Paul Irving, your sergeant at arms, will inform you that their best information is that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour.
So this afternoon, I am offering this resolution that the committee direct the chairman to issue a subpoena for relevant documents and testimony.
I might be crazy. I don't remember. Is Liz Cheney still, she's still in power? I'm like super curious. I don't remember now. I'm now kind of like, did she win her race, or is her race coming up? I don't remember. No. Is Liz Cheney still in office? Has won someone No. I'm sure she is right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she lost her race. I'm like fairly certain that she got like yeeted. Oh wait, is this it? 2022? Yeah, I'm like curious. Let's see. No. Oh yeah, there it is. Yep, Republican primary. US. Yep. Yeah. Jesus. 66. So 66 to 28. Understand that is Liz Cheney got fucking BTFO'd right there. Like, get fucking murked. Jesus. This person looks like an insane person. I'm not gonna get into whatever their politics are, but I don't. This person looks like a psychopath. Anyway, I was just curious about that. I got a bit distracted. Sorry.
Under oath from Donald John Trump.
Those in favor will say
John.
aye.
Wow, that's an awkward.
Aye.
Those opposed is no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. I think a lot of times it's people's not expectation. It's people's desire for these sorts of things to kind of come out of nowhere. You know, between the Jan 6 ride and stuff like that. These are things that people think come out of nowhere, and they're not. This all has been building up for at least as long as I've been aware of politics broadly. You know, I am now 30, but you know, this has been a talking point on the right. This has been a talking point of the 2A community for all of my life. So understand, this didn't just come out of nowhere. This didn't just suddenly happen. This was built up. This was very much something that I'm not going to say was inevitable, but certainly isn't something that we should be shocked by. All right. Fantastic. All right. We're going to take another quick break because my laundry did not feel like drying after an hour of sitting in the dryer, I guess. So we're going to take another quick break. Stick around. I will be back. This time it'll probably be shorter, I'm assuming. Don't go anywhere. Also follow. All right. Welcome back. I am Josh. Let's get back into it, shall we? So, next up on the docket. Oh, yeah, it's time. It is time, ladies and gentlemen. So, Alex Jones. If you're aware of him, I'm sorry. But, so, Alex Jones, known conspiracy theorist, host of InfoWars, this past week had his one of his cases for his, I believe it's the defamation lawsuit. So it's a civil lawsuit by a batch of Sandy Hook victims, Sandy Hook shooting victims. I do believe he has another what's the word I'm looking for? Another hearing for another civil case later on this year or early next year. But I think this is probably the bigger one. I think this one has like a lot of people in it. So yeah, Alex Jones got hit up with the $1 billion hit, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody went into Alex Jones's account, grabbed it, took his money, got his credit card, and went and bought $1 billion worth of shark cards on it. Get fucked, my dude. So let's kind of listen to this first before we gets going.
We, the jury, have reached our verdict.
That is wildly loud. Is there not going to be talking in this?
There's been contempt for the
There we go. Okay. Here, let's do this full screen. Oh, yeah, this works. Yeah. Connecticut jury decided conspiracy theorist Alex Jones must pay at least $965 million in damages to families of Sandy Hook shooting victims for falsely claiming the massacre was a hoax. So if you're not aware of who Alex Jones is, conspiracy theorist, one of the, I think, bigger things he's kind of known for is the popularization. I know I had to say that really slow. The popularization of the crisis actor claim when mass shootings occur. So Alex Jones, very well known. That's probably, Sandy Hook is probably one of the larger things he is known for making the utterly absurd case that Sandy Hook, the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, I believe, was a hoax, that the kids are still alive, that the kids and the family are all actors, employed by the government to, and this actually connects right back to our first point, anti-gun legislation. So Alex Jones's whole conspiracy is that these fake shootings are put on by the government in a attempt to justify taking away all guns from all Americans, and that's it. So a really ridiculous idea. There's just kind of a lot of logical jumps you have to go into that, and how much effort one would have to put in to do something that's not really all that I'm not gonna say not controversial, but like seems like a lot of work to do something that you could just make a you could just present a bill, write a bill for. So anyway, yeah, that's also I think it was what was it, there was a school down in Florida, I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, that one also, he believes it to be fake and put on by the government also. And like I can't remember the kid's name. There's like the kid who, he shows up on a lot of media and stuff. I think he runs an organization now that pushes back against gun laws, and specifically for solutions in schools in terms of gun violence. Yeah, I just don't remember his name, but I know like Jones thinks that kid is like a political operative which now he kind of is, but he thinks he always was. He also thinks that he's kind of a crisis actor. It's really fucking weird.
There's been contempt for the system and disregard for the system through discovery and even the trial testimony.
I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry.
That it's going to be I think it's a big ask to then come back for the defendant to come back to the court and say, well, now please reduce this to something a little more reasonable.
In the usual defamation case, you're talking about a one-off, essentially, a story in a newspaper on one day. Here, we're talking about 6 years worth of mendacity. For each of the 15 plaintiffs, the jury came up with a specific dollar figure.
$57,600,000.
Sheesh. So understand the dollar figure isn't really the thing that they're going after. The jury's mostly figuring that out, and I think obviously their lawyers are making arguments for certain amounts, or at least within ranges of certain amounts. But it's, these are 15 people who've had to move multiple times. These are 15 families that have to move multiple times, along with, I'm sure therapy, along with all the other emotional stress that comes from having, randos show up to your house and tell you that your kid didn't actually die in a school shooting, that, they're upstairs or whatever, and the amount of damage that has to do to somebody. So, pretty schizo shit on the part of Alex Jones, I must say.
$1,000 initialed by juror number 1.
That represented the amount of damages for defamation and a separate figure for the amount that represented emotional distress that they incurred. So, the court would have to really do some fancy footwork to try to undo those specific calculations for each of those 15 defendants. I don't honestly see that happening. It's quite likely, I think, that the judge is going to add to the amount that that Mr. Jones was found liable for, rather than subtract from.
Get fucking comboed, my guy. Yeah, so Alex Jones got hit with like a fucking 15 hit combo right there. Anyway. Let's read a little bit. October 14th, right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones has vowed to fight a nearly $1 billion defamation verdict against him. But experts say neither bankruptcy nor an appeal of a Connecticut jury's findings on Wednesday are likely to salvage his personal fortune and media empire. A jury in Waterbury, Connecticut state court found Jones and the parent company of his InfoWars website must pay $965 million to numerous families of the 20 children and 6 staff members slain at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012 for claiming they were actors who faked the tragedy as part of a government plot. What's up, Monsieur Balls? How are you? Yeah. Also, so the reason why, from what I understand initially, Alex Jones's InfoWars and the company that owns it, which I don't remember what the name of it. I know it's like Free Speech, something or other. It's nonsense. Like, because those are separate entities, Jones had filed for basically bankruptcy in the or certain paperwork to kind of separate those funds so that he could kind of move the money around and basically keep if he had to pay any of this, and not this money, this was decided later, but any money that he would have potentially had to pay, this was all going, he was attempting to try to separate himself from InfoWars and everything else so that he could declare bankruptcy and then just live off the liquid of the company and, kind of skirt away with that. But because they've implicated InfoWars into this, since it was the platform that he spread a lot of this defamation, that's why they also went after InfoWars and why he's kind of completely fucked. I don't know if he can, if declaring bankruptcy or if anything can get him out of paying this money. I've heard some pretty large figures for how much money InfoWars was making for a long time. So, I mean, they might have $956 million, or was that what it was? 906 mil? 965. Sorry, my dysgraphia is kicking in. Yeah, so they might have that money, but either way, I mean, $965 million, whether you're a company functioning or not, is as me and my friends would say when we play Monopoly, a fucking hit. That would be a big bag for the families here. But the verdict could grow substantially when a judge decides how much to award in punitive damages next month. It also comes 3 months after a Texas jury awarded two Sandy Hook parents $49.3 million in a similar case. Jones has said he will fight the verdict on appeal and use the recent bankruptcy of his company's Free Speech Systems LLC. So yeah, so that's the right, yeah, because he declared bankruptcy for that company to kind of get out of paying what is it, Broadway with a hotel on it that he's going to be paying. Jones has said he will fight. Yep. It is unclear if he and his companies could ever pay the verdicts in full, but attorneys for the plaintiffs have vowed to prevent him from shielding any of his assets. Yeah, so pretty much, I mean, obviously the company only has so much liquid, and they have a lot of, probably a lot of, like, actual product. It's all the bullshit snake oil that he sells. So most likely all of that they'll be able to, like, seize, or, they'll be seizing any money that he makes going forward. I mean, my dude's pretty fucked. We're confident we will recover as much of the verdict as we can in the near term, and in the long term, this verdict isn't going anywhere. An attorney for the plaintiff said, InfoWars' finances are not public, but according to the trial testimony, the site brought in revenue of at least $165 million between 2016 and 2018. So, I mean, that's, 2 years? So, I mean, extrapolate that over however long he's been running the InfoWars stuff, which is, from what I understand, like, I think InfoWars started... When did InfoWars start? Let's find out together. War on Information. Oh my god, it's founded in 1990. Okay, no. When was like the show started? I really want to know when the show was started. Founded in 1999. Okay. 1999. Yeah, it's probably like a radio show, right? Oh my god, that's literally it. Just 1999. Now, granted, he hasn't made, what is that, 165 divided by 2? That's like 82.5 mil each year. Obviously, he's not making that every single year, but, probably for at least, a couple years leading into it, that's probably what he was making each year, is around 82 mil. So, I mean, he probably doesn't have it in liquid, that money. But yeah, InfoWars, let's see, yeah, 2018, an economist in the Texas case estimated that Jones is personally worth between 135 and 270 mil. So I mean, this case is what, 3 times what he's worth, roundabout. Like, good luck, my dude. Free Speech Systems filed for bankruptcy in July. The Sandy Hook families have intervened in the case and accused Jones of withdrawing up to $62 million from Free Speech Systems while burdening it with $54 million in concocted debt owed to a different company, owed by Jones and his parents. So yeah, so basically before declaring bankruptcy for the Free Speech Systems, he pretty much, he cashed out, filed for bankruptcy, saying, I'm gonna take all the money out, say that I can't pay any of it, and, like, the money that the company now has in debt is actually really just to him. So, this is kind of the game that a lot of rich folks play, is they buy corporations, they buy their own debt, and, when something happens at the bottom, you just declare bankruptcy, that's now gone, and you owe that money to the next company up that you've bought that owns that debt, which is conveniently you. And now, they owe you $54 million. There's $54 million left in the company. Just move that up into that bracket. So it's kind of the game that a lot of these people play. Bankruptcy courts have wide discretion to decide which creditors get paid first and are vigilant in cases where companies try to siphon out funds via debt held by shell entities. UConn School of Law professor Minor Myers said, quote, "No bankruptcy judge would allow Alex Jones and his dad to stand in line in front of the plaintiffs." Plaintiffs with the judgments against bankrupt entities typically recover only a portion of what they are owed, along with other creditors whose debts are ranked in priority by the court. For judgments involving intentional infliction of harm, I have so many I words. Golly. However, courts will often rule that plaintiffs can continue seeking payment after the bankruptcy is concluded by going after wages and other assets, experts say. So they'll be going after any money that he makes going forward, basically, will be the plan. Jones's, quote, underlying conduct was egregious, and that's the kind of thing that could get you beyond the limits of a bankruptcy. An attorney who is not involved in the case told Reuters. In the near term, Jones is unlikely to prevail if he asks a judge or appeals court to reduce the verdict on the grounds that it is excessive, according to several Connecticut attorneys. Sorry, guys, I can't talk or read today. But yeah, basically going back and being like, "Hey, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. Please, lower this amount. Please, this isn't fair." And when they spoke earlier about the court lowering that amount because the jury came up with specific amounts for damages and stuff like that, it's going to be hard for the court to kind of push back, because at the end of the day, that's what the jury decided those numbers were. While the verdict is eye-popping, it includes more than a dozen plaintiffs who say they suffered years of harassment, death threats, and stalking at the hands of Jones's followers. Damasio said a $1 billion verdict is appropriate given the uniquely tragic circumstances of the case and egregious nature of Jones's conduct. Quote, "This was a tragedy unspeakable in terms of its impact and involves conduct that is just so abhorrent. This is the kind of award you would expect." Jones may have also hurt his chances by repeatedly violating court orders, claiming the trial was a sham, and erupting into a tirade against, quote, liberals during his testimony. Syracuse University College of Law professor Roy Gutterman said that Jones, quote, contempt of the system will likely undermine any appeal. So yeah, I mean, when you blame the referees and constantly do the liberals are targeting me, it's not fair, it's not fair, it's, it doesn't play well when you go back and ask, in good faith that, you try to pretend that you're good faith in asking for a bit of relief here. Quote, it's going to be a big ask for the defendant to come back to the court and say, "Will you now please reduce this to something a little more reasonable?" Yeah. So yeah, Alex Jones in a classic case. Oh, let me see. Can I find that video? In a classic case of fucking around and finding out. Fucked around quite a bit and found out. Let's see if I can find the let's see if I can find it. Can I find it? Come on. Oh, yes. Yes, this is what I want. Look, that's not what I clicked. Show me the thing that I clicked.
All right, today we're going to...
Here it is. Alex Jones, learning the lesson that everyone should learn. We're going to learn it all together.
talk about how we can find out and how much we can find out and what it takes to get there. So first we have to decide how much do we want to find out.
Can I full screen
So
this
let's
now?
say in this case, I want to find out at a level of 7. Okay, so I find that level on my graph.
Fucking
and I
love this
come
video.
horizontally to my gradient line. Where it intersects with my gradient line, I'm going to come straight down to where it intersects with my fuck around line.
There it
Now
is.
there's going to tell me how much I have to fuck around to find out what I need to find out. See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. And also, if you stay down here and you never fuck around, you'll never find out.
Alex Jones at like this man needs like 5 of these like whiteboards to graph how much Alex Jones fucked around and how much Alex Jones found out. God, I fucking love this video. But
So I hope this lesson is helpful. Thank you.
Get fucking bombed, my dude. Yeah. So Alex Jones is fucked. Anybody who thinks he's not fucked is coping, quite frankly. I just love that video. But yeah, Alex Jones blown the fuck out. I actually have a really funny story here. I'll tell a quick story. I promise it'll be quick. So back in 2016, I did canvassing for technically a third party, but on the Democratic side, for the 2016 election. And for a lot of if you've never been canvassing, you know it's really just a lot of, usually they give you a tablet, you walk around like, you know, a neighborhood, you know, usually they drive you out. I was the driver, luckily. So I got to like drive to locations, which was nice. But you drive to like a neighborhood, you get out, you have like a tablet with a bunch of addresses with names attached to them. And, you know, you just go in, you knock on the doors, and there's usually like a questionnaire and stuff like that, right? So we spent a lot of our time going to a lot of like the burbs, right? Like you go to the burbs a lot, especially if you're canvassing a lot of especially on the Democratic side, you're going to be canvassing a lot in the burbs. Hello, Vargasina. So because of that, it's honestly a bit boring, a bit dry a lot of the times. I personally am not a big fan of it. It's good work. I encourage everybody to like do it at least once. It can be fulfilling. It's a lot of walking around. It's a lot of like knocking on doors and people telling you to fuck right off. So it's not the most encouraging work that one can do. But it's like it can be good money. Usually those places, because they're usually only running for a short amount of time. I'll give you a little hint here. During election season, a lot of campaigns need people canvassing, need people going around, and most of them will pay pretty well because they're at a crunch time and they're only operating for a little bit of time. So it's a good little part-time thing that you could do and make quite a bit of money. But anyway, so after going to a lot of these like suburban neighborhoods and kind of boring the shit out of my brain, we finally end up going to up kind of in the more mountainy, rural areas of Colorado. And I will tell you, not only are there some interesting folks out there, I got one person who came to the door with a gun. That was fun. And a dog, which I feel like the dog was supposed to be intimidating, but being a dog person and somebody who a dog would never harm, I just kind of was hoping to pet the dog, but sadly they didn't let me pet the dog. But anyway, so you go up to these kind of more mountainy, rural communities, and when I say we're on a mountain, I mean like once it gets dark, there aren't street lights. There's like signs to watch out for bears, some sketchy shit, some great pictures though that I got to take up there. But as I go to this one, it's like really dark. It's like dark, like it's now like probably, what is it? It's like maybe October. It's like 6-7 o'clock, pitch black, right? You can't see a damn thing. So I'm driving around, and mind you, I got lucky. I got to drive around this mountain. The people I was working with are like walking around this mountain, pitch black at night, with like with not like barely a GPS and a little tablet on, just walking around. Like I felt bad for these guys. So I'm driving around, right? It's like super dark. I get to like one of these, one of the houses. I'm like, all right, I get to get out, go really quick, talk to somebody, get the fuck back in my car, right? So I go to this house. Guy opens the door. Really friendly guy. Really friendly guy. You know, opens the door. You know, I knock. I go, hey, sir. You know, how are you doing this evening? I know it's a bit weird. Somebody knocking on your door at 7:30 at night, and you're in the middle of nowhere. I'm actually here doing like some campaign work, asking some questions. I shit you not, the dude like sounded like Alex Jones. And he opens the door. He's like, "Oh, hey, what's up? What are you doing up here? Isn't it a bit dangerous?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know, my coworkers are walking around, but I have a nice car with heated seats and whatnot, so I was rather comfortable." But so I get to talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm a Republican. I would never vote. You couldn't pay me to vote for Hillary. She's like killed people, right?" And I'm like sitting there talking to him, I'm like, yes, I have heard some of the theories that she's killed a few people. And, very nice guy, like offered me inside if I wanted to come inside for a bit. It's got work to do. I couldn't go inside. But I tell him like, I'm very left wing, we probably would disagree, but very nice guy, very nice conversation. And he gestures to his son who's sitting on the couch, and I can kind of faintly hear Fox News in the background. And he's like, if you want to really talk to somebody about politics, you got to talk to the boy over here. Come over here. Kid comes over. He's this little pudgy thing. I can't really talk, but he's a little pudgy thing. He comes over, and he's like, this kid right here, he watches InfoWars every single night, and he makes sure to not watch all that media that lies to you. Get the real news, not the fake stuff. And like, and then and I'm having like some very mild back and forth, and I'm just like, oh man, I bet you've heard some weird stories. And I forget what the kid said. The kid didn't really do all the talking. Obviously, he was a bit nervous with a random stranger like showing up to his door, but Dad's really friendly, and like I walked away with that experience just kind of. I'd never met an Alex Jones fan. I was aware of who he was at that time, but I wasn't super aware. I grew up with my dad listens to a lot of right wing radio, so he listens to a lot of Mark Levin, a lot of what's the fat fuck who died recently a couple years ago? Damn it, what was his name? Rush Limbaugh, piece of shit. Who's the other one? Now I think it's mostly Levin, but what's it called? I think now it's mostly Levin, but it was Rush Limbaugh back in the day. But so I wasn't as aware of Alex Jones, and like I met this guy. This is the first time like interacting with an Alex Jones guy. Shockingly friendly, but like also. You can tell kind of lives in a different universe. A lot of like, Killary memes, but like in real life. It's just weird interactions. Like very interesting. You meet some very interesting people. I tell everybody that like, talking to conservatives, especially in rural areas, they're definitely going up specifically in 2016. I don't know about nowadays, but like in 2016, I think the most common, if people were not like super friendly to, the Democratic side, I would mention, I remember like somebody asked me, they're like, would you ever really vote for Hillary? And like my response was always like, well, I didn't vote for her during the primaries. I was a Bernie supporter. And like the thing that I noticed a lot of times, and was mainly that a lot of them were pretty all right with Bernie. A lot of them would be like, oh, okay, I guess, I don't necessarily agree with that guy, but at least he's honest. And that plays a lot, I think, into electoral politics and a lot of like why people distrust the Democratic Party. Because quite frankly, I mean, both parties are a mess, but I always found that really interesting back then. Nowadays, those politics are very different, pretty different. But yeah, the what's it called? The very interesting time, 2016. I won't say I miss it. I definitely don't miss the canvassing, but very interesting populist time, as some said. Who wins between Trump and Kamala in 2024? I don't. So I'm pretty sure if Kamala's on the ticket, she's running as vice president. If you're asking me Trump Biden, I don't think I don't know if I have a I don't know if I have like a clear picture yet. I think it's really going to depend on the midterms, and we'll see kind of how the midterms turn out. I think that's the first you know, I could make a guess, but I'm not really super confident in any kind of guess. The way the midterms roll out are gonna be really helpful to see who wins in 24. I'm not asking about Biden. Biden versus DeSantis is probably the more likely claim. The primaries are going to be interesting, if nothing else. The primaries are going to be interesting. I know you're not asking about Biden. I don't know how to. Trump versus Kamala. I mean, who wins between? Oh, like if we're talking like a hypothetical Trump versus Kamala, I would put Trump. I think he has a better chance of garnering voters than Kamala Harris does. Kamala Harris is pretty bad of a politician, quite frankly. I don't think she's really a great politician, and like for somebody who's a prosecutor, has not made strong arguments, in my opinion. Like Donald Trump is like has like fucking brainworms, but I mean, unfortunately, he's you know, the guy. I'm comfortable in saying the guy is like mildly likable in like a dumb uncle kind of way, you know. So I mean, the guy's funny. Kamala Harris is not very funny and not very likable either. Trump is at least like entertaining, and I think more people will lean on what's entertaining more than anything else. But I saw somebody mention Steven Crowder. We are gonna watch that, so let's get into it. Let's just go right into it, shall we? All right, so Crowder interviewed Alex Jones, who we just talked about. So we're gonna start at 1.25. Let's hear him out. I'm sure Jones is a bit is reeling from his enormous lawsuit. So I know I don't like him either. He's kind of a lot of things I don't like in human beings. But we're mostly here for Jones. I'm interested to see what Jones has to say.
Says any company is too big to fail is not looking out for you. These too big to fail companies, what that really means is the government gets to tell them what to do. And then they get to remove you. So you can't bank, you can't speak, and hey, if everyone got pushed onto PayPal or some form of standardized digital currency, you also can't purchase firearms or ammunition. It's not illegal. The government's not making it. They're not infringing on your rights. You just can't do it.
The 1 billion wasn't was pretty much just the jury was deciding, was kind of cobbling together like all of the damages and like between financial damages and like emotional damages, and they kind of compiled all of that for, I think it was 15 people, for 15 plaintiffs. So those are like full families and everything else. The number isn't quite a billion, it's like 965 mil, but I mean, what can you buy with 906? What can you buy with $1 billion that you can't with 965 million? Sort of one of those deals.
And support them. Well, it doesn't matter if you want to support them or not. Your tax dollars do.
Oh my God. Crowder, shut up.
Is very good at.
Just give me Jones. I'm here for Jones.
And all of us.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Okay.
You know, we also have
there we go.
So please don't get me removed from YouTube. It's time for Alex Jones.
I love how much Steven Crowder like actively tries to get booted off of YouTube, and then like doesn't every single time, and then pretends like he's being targeted. Like, dude, you've gotten away with like everything. Stop with this nonsense.
Mr. Jones. Oh, okay, I see that smirk. What were you saying? Was that a dirty joke?
No, I said I'm really jealous of that shirt. I'm going to rip it off and make my own copy.
Well, I can no. Come on now. Well, then I want you to
That is the coolest shirt. That is the coolest shirt I've seen yet. Absolutely. But what you're talking about is absolutely true. And I'd love to give everybody the inside baseball, what really happened with the case, how it's a precedent setter, and where it's going. Because
Alex, hold on just 1 second, Alex, because I want to give you the floor, okay? And what's the best place? Because I know you have several sites. Is it Infowars.com still the best place for people to go?
Yeah, so they want to actually hear what we're saying and not edited clips or twisted derivatives, and they want to hear what the establishment is so scared of. Infowars.com, Infowars.com/show, and banned.video, and they see us like a Roman standard. Right. They want to capture and pull down and get control of. I am the Democrat deep state new shoe toy.
I want to give you the floor. I know I want to give you the floor, but I think it's really important to set this up, and believe me, I'm going to.
Yeah, this is the usual. I think the funny thing is always how like Jones and guys like him constantly kind of do the tough guy blustering, but then are like always victims of something.
I'll let you run. You know me well enough. I'm going to let you run with this. But I want to set up something. For example, when I had Brian Callen on the show one time, and he was falsely accused of sexual assault. I spoke with Brian. And I said, look, I'm going to lead this interview with, did you do it? And he said, no. Off air.
Texas
Brian,
over California. Who gives a fuck
fuck
about Texas or California?
And so
Colorado's better than
I
both.
think this is pivotal. And we've done several.
It is the dry heat of California, an actual nice, what's the word? Nice environment. That's even better than Texas. We have everything Texas has, but then we have also cool ass mountains and nice forests. Texas is I've been to Texas. Texas fucking sucks. California also fucking sucks.
But for some reason, this gets lost, and I want you to correct me if I have this wrong. So in 2017, as an example, because the narrative is Sandy Hook, you tormented the parents, you called them out by name, and you continually harassed them. From what I understand, I have some quotes in front of me, and I want you to tell me if I'm misquoting you. You admitted you were wrong, and you apologized, and I think that's key, because they still want to go after you anyway. So 2017, you talked about an epiphany.
Utah's great. I really love Utah.
Forgive me.
My aunt lived in Utah for a really long time.
A horrible tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, and give you my sincere condolences. You said that, right?
Wow, that's an actually really good. I thought that was Jones talking when I wasn't looking. Yeah, Utah's amazing. Like, some of the people there can be cringe, but man, what a beautiful state.
Yes. Okay, you also said, I'd also like to reach out to any of the parents who lost a child at Newtown to invite them to contact me to open a dialogue, because I think it's really essential we do that instead of letting the mainstream media misrepresent things and really try and drive this nation apart. You said that, right?
Before they sued me.
Yes, before they sued you. And
like, what is this?
You said,
like, what? Oh, I apologized. I said you. I apologized. I said that, you know, I really want us to handle this. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, apologizing. Fucking harass these people for like years and sent people like after them and into their like neighborhoods and at their homes. Like, you don't just get to be like, oh, I'm really sorry. You know, I think like, it's fucking stupid.
That is what is so scary, and I think that people out here would do well, if you're watching, to understand that apologies do nothing with these monsters. You also said, so I think as a pundit, someone giving an opinion, that, you know, my opinions have been wrong, but they were never wrong consciously to hurt people. So do I have this right in saying multiple times you said you were wrong and you apologized in one fashion or another? And by the way, both before and after being sued.
What do you do if you can't pay a $1 billion court ruling? So it's a civil suit, so most likely he's not going to end up paying that actual amount. Most of that just comes down to it's basically like that is the amount that the jury and probably the judge is also going to tack on some dollar amount as the damages that he's done in that civil case. Now, what he pays will be different. Most like we read it earlier, Jones is worth upwards of about $270 million. So most likely what's going to happen is he's going to pay a certain percentage of that to each person. So each person obviously has their own amount that the jury found that they're, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? They're owed, basically. So Jones isn't going to be paying everybody their full amounts or anything. He's going to be paying a portion of that, and then most likely his wages, part of his wages are going to be seized for that. Part of any liquid, any like liquid, a percentage of that is probably going to be taken. InfoWars already declared bankruptcy and a few of these other things, so creditors need to get their money. He's going to lose a shit ton of money. He's probably still going to have his show. He's probably still going to be fairly wealthy, but behind him in everything he does going forward, those people are going to be cashing in. So like, he's not going to be avoiding this. This is going to be following him for the rest of his life, most likely.
Would that be a correct statement for me to make, Alex?
I said I believe Sandy Hook happened in 2016.
Right.
I said it in 2015. And this is important. It's a lot bigger than Alex Jones. It's the anatomy of the left. It's like with George Floyd or something, taking something and then blowing it up to be the biggest thing on earth. It's like you can take a microscope and zoom in on a grain of sand, and it looks like the Himalayan mountains, but it's not really. So,
right.
Here's what really happened.
Yes.
Here's what really happened. I can give you the latest information where they're going with it. This is everybody, and thank you, sir.
I'm not really sure what the left has to do with this. This is just
Obama has with the White House. It's going on.
This is just regular ass people suing you.
The story's bizarre. And then about a year after it, all these professors and people that sounded credible come out, school safety experts, and say that they thought it was just completely staged. And I've seen things like Operation Northwoods that talked about staging attacks on school kids that didn't exist as a pretext for war with Cuba and Russia. So I said, yeah, a lot of stuff's been staged. Maybe this is. So I did 4 or 5 programs from like 2000 and I guess 13, 14, questioning maybe that it
I'm with you, Crowder.
Barely
Thirsty.
on the radar. It was a huge internet issue.
Me and him, same
Hundreds of
energy.
million views on YouTube, other people's videos.
I just
My
don't
listeners
wear.
wanted to know. My crew wanted to cover it. They wanted to talk about it.
I don't wear.
They put in
What's
evidence
it
that it was
called?
about 24 minutes in Texas,
I don't wear
about 25
holsters.
minutes in
My
Connecticut.
guns are all
In
back
10
there.
years, this is the big evil stuff. The guy that got rich off Sandy Hook, the guy that wears Sandy Hook underwear, the guy that prays 5 times a day to New Haven, Connecticut. I mean, my mother didn't give birth to me. Sandy Hook did. I mean, my whole life is this, okay?
Right.
But it's not. So Hillary and the Democrats start running this false news campaign during 2016 campaign.
It's a number. I wouldn't get too hooked. I wouldn't get.
Wild guy.
I wouldn't get too hung up on like the number. The number is really just a figure put on the damage that he's done. Like, you got to remember, these are, you know, for each family, assume that there's at least 2 people. That's 30 people that have been affected on top of any children. So any of the kids from Sandy Hook that might have brothers, might have sisters that were victim of that, those kids probably had to go do therapy and all these sorts of things. The number isn't anything that's like truly objective. It's really just when the jury looked at all of the shit that people had to go through, they came to whatever individual numbers. Like any family might get, $100 million, right? But if 15 of them did that, that's a lot. Not only that, but people had to change jobs, people had to move, houses cost money, all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't get too hung up on the number, like it's some sort of like objective like calculation of every absolute thing. Some of these things are subjective. Some of these things are like just kind of, fuck man, that's a lot of mental damage to somebody to put them through living through their like trauma of their child being shot over and over again, and them having to prove that their kid's not with them. Like it's just a lot.
He's a populist. He's got a lot of people supporting Trump. Let's make him a liability. Let's take the worst stuff he said out of context and run tens of millions of TV ads against Trump using Alex Jones saying he's Trump's brain.
And one thing.
Nope. Zoom out of that, man.
To understand how this is, Alex. You were
they'll
talking.
lie and say I'm saying it didn't happen again.
No, but they'll say that what you were saying because you saw this, and there were other people, there were other professors, there were other conspiracy theorists, some of whom turned out to not be credible, and then you didn't have them on your show anymore. You did say maybe this is staged, and just again to be clear, you afterwards said no, it was not staged. I was wrong. You did correct it, right, Alex?
Yes. But it's important to understand this timeline.
Yeah.
So again, we need to talk really quickly because what Crowder's trying to do with a lot of this obviously is play defense, but they're playing this game where Jones for years was forwarding, bringing people on his show, and actively pushing this conspiracy that maybe the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax and a conspiracy by the government to take your firearms. Maybe, right? We all understand what stochastic terrorism is. But making that kind of illusion and kind of alluding to that, and you do it enough times, you're clearly making the claim without, and if you've watched my stream before, you might have heard me say it, is not saying it with your chest. I don't respect that. But it's a way to say what you're saying without really saying it. We all kind of understand that, right? And what Crowder's trying to make the argument is that eventually Alex, admitted he was wrong. Now, I don't know if he did. He might have. There's a good chance Jones said, maybe refuted what he said before, right? There's a good chance that for those legal reasons, because of the legal drama coming his way, he decided to pull the chute and bail out on that one. But that doesn't, in a court of law and in terms of civil cases, that doesn't rectify the multiple years and all of the consequences extrapolated from his initial action. From those broadcasts, actions were taken because of the information that he was spreading, right? And that he was pushing towards people. If I remember correctly, he showed up at Sandy Hook to do some fake nonsense investigation thing. So this is one of those things where it's you didn't break a law necessarily, but you did defame people and you did do all of these things, and just turning around after the fact and being like, oh, well, okay, maybe I was wrong, I was wrong, I'm sorry, that doesn't cover it, that wouldn't cover it in any other situation. So why would it cover it now? And it's because Crowder, at the end of the day, is trying to honestly make Jones look innocent in this case. He's trying to do like the, look, you've reformed, you've done all this. Well, guess what, man? Just saying you reformed, you gotta do, you know, there's still penance that you have to pay for that. You don't just get to come around, you know, Johnny come lately, like, oh, now I don't think it's a hoax. And the families are gonna be like, oh, okay, well, since you're right now, since you've come around, then it's okay. Because that's not what they're going after him for. They're going after him for all the lies he told and infected other people with that they got harassment from. They're not worried about Alex Jones's opinion. The same way I'm not worried about like a Steven Crowder fan if they ever watch this stream. I'm not worried about Steven Crowder's opinions. Steven Crowder is going to have the opinions that are going to make him money at any moment. What I care about are the people who consume Steven Crowder's media. Those are the people who I'm interested in speaking to. Because those people don't have a financial incentive to have any opinion one way or another.
So for over a year and a half, from 2015 into 2016, we've checked the record. I never talked about it one time. And I told the crew, this is a tar baby. It's a setup. I don't want to ever discuss it again. I think it happened. We started seeing that some of the folks that were claiming it was staged had gone even crazier, and we're now dysregulating and showing that indeed they had put out things that were wrong. So I was not the Sandy Hook guy. It didn't put me on the map. I barely ever covered it. But Hillary blows it up, makes it a cause celeb for Democrats. They use it to bring back all the gun control and now attacks on free speech and to attack Trump. And so then Trump wins. They go even crazier. And they start attacking me, saying he's sending people to the kids' houses. He's sending people to the parents' houses. He won't stop saying it didn't happen. And I'm like, I said years ago it happened. Stop it. This is a media event. They're building up, obviously, to come after the First Amendment.
Yeah, and a lot of this is playing with the timeline and trying to kind of skirt around like when things are happening and try to separate himself from the actions of the people who listen to his show. So, CNN defame high school kid sued for $1 billion. Two things. One, I'm not sure what kid you're talking about. I'm assuming they wore a Trump hat, I guess. Sued for $1 billion. If like it had to move multiple times and was like harassed by students and parents of students and you know, had to get another job or something, like, you know, I'm well with they, you know, whoever this kid is, they have all the right in the world to sue them in civil court. I have no problem with that. I don't know the specifics of the story, but what's it called? If, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, these are, you know, you can sue somebody for defamation. You have to make your case, and the Sandy Hook victims made their case. Alex Jones is taking the L. That's kind of how it works.
So I issued dozens of corrections, dozens of apologies. You just mentioned one of them there. And then they sue me in 2018. And then they do all this discovery. We give them all the emails, all the text messages, everything. There's no evidence we made money on Sandy Hook. There's no evidence
Which he didn't. Also, he definitely did. I mean, I've seen Sandy Hook was a hoax shirts before. So
meditatedly got it wrong on purpose. And so both Democrat-connected judges, one of them was supposedly Republican, but she's like George W. Bush.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Both Democrats, except one of them was Republican. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. If they went against me, then they have to be liberals. They have to be Democrats. You know, that's one of those. You know, don't let reality fool you here.
Saying
Oh, we lost Alex for a second. Alex, can you hear me, brother? This is clearly the globalist.
He's told I'm guilty.
Oh my God.
Okay,
it's back. Whoa.
I'm not allowed in a 5-week trial in Connecticut to defend myself. The judge actually says you can't say you're innocent, you can't say you're bankrupt, you can't say you didn't make money off of it. I say it's all true.
Well, let's see. What is it? He can't say he's innocent. Well, he can't say he's innocent because a court already found him guilty of, because the case that he's talking about, he's already been found guilty. What we're talking about is the, what the jury handed down as their sentence, basically. So, like, he can't say he's innocent because he's not. He's already been found guilty of defamation. What was the other thing he said? I'm sorry. Are we at 16? 16?
In a 5-week trial in Connecticut to defend myself, the judge actually says you can't say you're innocent, you can't say you're bankrupt, you can't say.
Yeah, he's not bankrupt. His company Infowars, filed for bankruptcy, but that's not Alex Jones.
didn't make money off of it. I say it's all true. Then they instruct the jury after 5 weeks of crying
Yeah,
parents.
and
not
like
talking about
you know,
Afghans killing their children,
if your
talking about
broadcast made money and during your broadcast you were
Important questions,
pushing
because I think these are things that
the
people- I know you have
Sandy
a-
Hook
I know you have a
hoax
highlighter reel
conspiracy,
over there.
then
Did you have something you wanted to show us a clip? But look,
you made
I think
money
it's
off
important.
of it.
First off, let me ask you questions. If you could just give me yes or no's on this, and I want to give you the floor again.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever call the parents out by name on air and say that they were their children, like call them out by name on air?
Only Robbie Parker.
Okay. And after
Does it matter? Like, well, like, okay, so he did for one, which is super bad, but like, all of their names are fairly public. Oh my god, you posted like the entire article. Like all their names are public. If you say Sandy Hook victims as parents, it doesn't. You don't need to say each, and you don't need to list off everybody's name. Like you're referring to all of those parents anyway. It doesn't matter whether you say their names. It matters if you're referring to them.
And I did not say that he staged it or it was fake. I said people think this clip was like 30 million views on YouTube or more. Right. It was a viral clip. People say this guy looks fake. And so I said, yeah, it does look like acting to me, but he's under stress, whatever. So they've built this mountain out of a molehill.
Right. I have one other question too.
Years. Yes, they gave an FBI agent who I'd never seen until he sued me. Didn't know who he
DFK,
was.
send me the link.
He gets up there and cries about me. They gave him $90 million.
I know, yeah. No, I appreciate you copy pasting or typing all that. More credit if you type it, but just send me the link.
He gets $90 million.
Well, let me ask you another
So
follow-up.
Winfrey's handing out, you get a car, you get a car. It's like, you get.
Well, I do have a question that's important here because people will say, well, the reason you weren't allowed to defend yourself is it was a default judgment, and they say because you didn't provide the evidence, right, that was requested in discovery. Give me very specific.
Which is true. He refused to hand over filings and documents that he was told to hand over during discovery. That is true.
Not just all. You did provide and hand over a lot of evidence. What did you hand over? Because they did have financials. They did have, certainly in the Texas trial, they did have access to financials. They did have access to certain traffic metrics. When I was watching the trial, they would say, well, actually, they didn't hand over, for example, the Alexa reportings as opposed to the Google Analytics reportings. What kind of evidence, when you were asked to hand over, just give me some examples of what you did hand over. Did you hand over financial documents that related to the company?
Yes.
Did you hand over documents as it related to, like different traffic and revenue streams to some degree or another?
To an extreme degree, the most ever given over in a civil defamation trial, many lawyers estimate. Stephen, let me be 100% clear.
So what are they saying you didn't provide is my point. Because this is something a lot of people who unfortunately on the right, Alex.
So I'm reading the message that you sent me. Sorry, I read really, really slow. If you're here during my segments where I read articles, you'll also find that I can't read for shit speaking out loud either sometimes. I can't say I remember this super well, but highly disseminated, major release days later, so the details. Yeah, that's reporting. I would say what you're referring to here is, from this long message, it sounds like reporting wasn't completed, and it sounds like that's kind of what I would expect when stories are developing. When you report on anything, you're going to, especially within the first 24 hours, you're going to fuck up and end up either leaving something out, not mentioning something, or a detail that wasn't available at the time. So it's kind of one of those like reporting things. You have to always go back, check the updates. People don't generally do that. Also, a lot of news media doesn't really do very good job at like communicating that they've updated any of their reporting. But yeah, I don't know if I would say this is like a 1-to-1 case. This seems different from what Jones did. What Jones does is a different kind of show. And also, I'm not sure if this was featured on like CNN proper, like television CNN, like sent out to like millions of people. Whereas Jones is mostly doing like a pretty large show. I mean, very unsimilar to this, but also that's like his show is, a lot of his show is presenting news. Well, it's mostly opinion presenting itself as news. That's kind of his angle. So it's a bit different. He's not reporting directly things. He's not directly reporting things, I should say. If I knew how to structure sentences properly.
This is important. I'm just saying this because people will try and take this out of context. People on the right will say, well, then you should comply during discovery. What in the fuck are they claiming you didn't provide so that you were not allowed to defend yourself?
That's my favorite.
All right, let me answer that question, and I want to get into
the right loves to do the just comply unless you disagree and you're a conservative.
They claimed that because we did so much
I
discovery.
thought Texas was free.
And they would have each person that they were deposing give them more discovery. So they'd say, out of the 200,000 emails you gave us in Texas, in one of the discovery batches you gave us, there was one extra email that wasn't in this batch. Little weird gotcha games. And then in Connecticut, the judge kept saying, give me the Google Analytics. Well, we hardly ever even used Google Analytics, hardly ever even looked at it.
Yeah.
So we explained to the judge, ma'am, it's a search box for the back end of Google, and a lot of you have to pay for it. We've never paid for it. We've barely ever used it, but we searched for Google Analytics and found one writer and one other person in the group that had looked at Google Analytics and said, oh, look how much traffic we're getting a few times. So we gave them what we had in our system about Google Analytics. Take Alexa, same thing. They said, give us the Alexa. Well, Stephen, I want you to give me the Google. And then I say, and then you say, okay, what do you want me to search in Google? Right. No, sir, give me the Google.
Right.
Give me the Alexa. We know you've got it. So they followed this unfair trade practices thing that not only did I lie about Sandy Hook on purpose to make money as they falsely claim, but that I was making all this money with those lies in unfair trade practices and then demonize me selling my own products. So that's really where we are. And for people out there that say, hey, this is just for Alex Jones, so what? It's the same Republicans 4 years ago when I got deplatformed that said it would never be President Trump or would never be them. They admit, the Democrats admit, they're on PBS, NBC, ABC.
It's a lot of whining.
Celebrating. And they've been doing it for years, saying, once we set the precedent to let government bureaucrats like this FBI agent sue somebody when no one's even ever said their name just because they got heat in public over, say, election fraud, now they can sue you and get $90 million. And here is the Secretary of State in Texas. I've got the article right here in my stack saying Alex Jones unleashed hell. This is a Republican on us during the election. He caused threats to our election officials. I didn't contest the 2020 Texas election. I didn't even cover that. Project Veritas did. I should have covered it more. The point is that I'm now the whipping boy or the reason America doesn't trust the government or the reason the American people don't trust the media. And now the Secretary of State of Texas is talking about we may have to go after Alex Jones.
Well, there definitely is an argument to be made that Alex Jones is a centerpiece in terms of the anti-government movement on the right. That is definitely an argument one could make. I think that's a pretty fair argument. I'm pretty sure Alex Jones would own up that he's fairly anti-government. So, I mean, I don't really see how that's when you're again what's the word? Presenting opinion as news and you have an anti-government stance, you're going to catch the ire of some high officials.
Does he cause threats on election officials? They have no statements. They don't have me saying be violent. I didn't even probably ever even talk about the Texas election other than saying I don't think Beto, was as close as he said he was to Ted Cruz. So this is the absolute next level garbage and propaganda. In fact, overhead shot, I want to show people this. Texas Secretary of State, Alex Jones unleashed hell on our election people. That's the Hill. Here's another one. Republican Texas election chief blasts nuts, peddling 2020 conspiracy theory, zooms in on Alex Jones. So just like they're suing everybody that questions election fraud.
I really like that Epstein one. I would 100% support that. Unfortunately, the guy is dead. There are theories about that, which I can't say I'm in deep disagreements with, but yeah. I would totally be in favor of that. I mean, isn't Ghislaine Maxwell like going to jail for an immense amount of time? That's also a different type of case. That's a criminal case. I don't think there's been like a civil case brought against Epstein or any of his like associates yet. Should be, absolutely should be, but I don't think it's happened yet.
Mail-in ballots. They never even sued me because I wasn't one of the main proponents of questioning the election, like some of the more prominent people were, who really got out there. I did have questions. It's my right to do it. But they're now just circling back, going, okay, we just got this verdict. So now we're going to say Alex Jones made people question the election. So now if you slip on a banana peel, or now if your carburetor breaks down, or maybe you get cancer, it's Alex Jones' fault. So they're
most cars are fuel injected now, but yes, the point remains.
Yeah, it's also not at all what people are saying. Like, that's not really the argument being made. You're kind of just using a bullshit way to obfuscate the actual argument against you.
Well, you know what I mean. That's why it's going to break down. It's an old car. It's
yes, exactly. You have the OJ Bronco, not the new one that also breaks down. Hey, did you have a video you wanted to show, or is it us? Because we have trial highlights and we have the verdict being read, but I was told that you had a clip that you wanted to play when you came on. Do I have that?
Yes, Stephen, I really appreciate you first off having me on, having the courage to defend free speech. Let me actually get this out, and I'm sorry I'm annoying. There's just so much here, and a lot of the points we haven't gotten to yet that I hope.
No, you're not annoying at all. I just want to make sure that I was told that you had a clip or a video.
Yes, let me describe this clip for you. Okay, there's dozens of these in Texas and Connecticut. We have a compilation reel that's about 30 minutes long of them in front of the juries and at press conferences saying, take Alex Jones out. Never.
Yeah. It's really funny to me that, like, Alex Jones, a guy who's, like, we all see how kind of, like, aggressive he generally acts, is suddenly so triggered by people using aggressive language. Like, it really belies that Alex probably doesn't believe the things he says he does. This is all a show, which also there are court documents that have where I believe its lawyers have argued that, you know, InfoWars presents itself as a news show but is not real news, and that Alex Jones is a character, not I mean, obviously that's his real name and everything, but he's playing a character, much like in professional wrestling. So I mean, like, you know, for him to get so upset by somebody acting, or at least like taking using language that's in the vaguest ballpark of the language he uses, tells me that he probably doesn't actually believe the things he says he does.
Let him rebuild his platform again, and once we take him out, we're going to take out all the right-wing disinformation operatives like Tucker Carlson, and the list goes on and on. So this is the weaponization where they sue you in Democrat jurisdictions, where they default you, claiming that you didn't give them evidence,
whining,
tell the jury you're guilty, and then the jury decides how guilty after you've been demonized.
Triggered.
So that's just what happened in Connecticut. So here they are. Yesterday, just a small clip at the press conference. Chris Matty,
you know, if it happens in Connecticut, it's liberals. If it happens in Texas, it's liberals. It's always liberals.
Federal prosecutor up there who had this kept control jury that was told I was guilty, and then he says we don't want money from Alex Jones because I'm in bankruptcy.
Well, Alex, it's in the clip. We can just watch the clip and let him say it. How long is it? Is it a minute? Is it 2 minutes? Just so I have an idea.
39 seconds.
39 seconds. All right, I want to run this.
39 seconds.
You're not knowing it all. This is important, and we're going to spend as much time as we need to. I know you're busy, but this is important stuff, and I talked about it in the Cold Open Today show. All right, when you're ready, just roll. I guess you're rolling it from his end.
We'll roll from our end then. Go ahead and roll it, guys.
All right.
But we will be at it as long as it takes. And if you're out there right now and you're one of Alex Jones's audience members and you're giving him money, I just want you to know that based on the jury's verdict today, it's not a very good bet. And to go back to what Robbie Parker said, all Alex Jones does is take from you, exploit you, lie to you, feed your fears and your anxieties and your mistrusts. And the only person that benefits in that equation is him. Well, that stops. That's stopping today.
It's almost like he's a prosecutor making an argument.
All right, so what he just said there is, we don't want money from Alex Jones. And I want to explain to listeners. We're going to appeal this.
Then they ask for money.
Overturned.
Then they ask for money. We don't want the $900 million from Alex Jones, damn it. You can make that payable to cash.
Absolutely. So.
Well, yeah. Like, that money isn't going to like, sure, lawyers do their job for profit, obviously. But there's a certain amount of, like, in cases like this, especially in civil court, while you will probably get money, the goal is mostly to hold people accountable for things that are, that they can be civilly liable for. It's just kind of the way these things work, you know? How do you hold somebody responsible? Crowder thinks like, oh yeah, they're gonna put Alex Jones on trial for this and do all of this, and the parents are gonna go after him, but they don't want anything. They just want a guilty verdict, and that's it. And it's what's the consequences of that? There are no consequences. So why would we even have civil courts if there weren't monetary consequences? The money is how people manifest their value and shit. So like, yeah, that's
if I can, I'm chopping the mix. There's so many angles to this, Stephen. Number one, I don't have $3 million cash in my company, my personal stuff. I have enough to operate and pay the bills and legal. I got a nice house, got decent cars.
Oh yeah, he always says that he's like on the edge of being broke too. Millionaire, always being like, oh guys, I'm really struggling here.
But they specifically say over and over again, they want me taken off the air. They want me bankrupt. Okay, so we're in Chapter 5, Chapter 11, Subchapter 5 bankruptcy. That isn't liquidation. It's where we do a plan to the federal government. We say, okay, you can have the future profits towards all these lawsuits in the future in a 5-year plan. And there's not much profit around here, so my crew stays hired, we stay on air, it becomes a zombie organization is what they call it, because now any profit, but they're not allowed to fire people or do all that stuff. The operation continues on, the lists are supported, and then whatever extras there, they get paid. That's in 2 years, at least, even if this isn't overturned on appeal. So they announced at the end of Alex Jones, it's all over. It's all more hype, more fraud, more disinformation. So that's what they just...
Yeah, so in that, he's actually kind of being honest. Most likely, InfoWars will become just like a zombie organization. Like they won't be really able to, like, they'll function, but most of the profits are going to immediately go to each of these families. Oh, okay. So we're gonna take our last break really quickly. Yeah, just gotta go flip some laundry. So we'll be back. We'll continue with Alex Jones, finish this off, and then I gotta run. But yeah, stick around, hang out, say nice things to each other. I don't even know if DFK is still around, but Let it be known, ladies and gentlemen, we do not run a $965 million operation here. I don't even have a lighting. I don't even have a lighting rig. Actually, one second. Turn this light off, save some electricity. I don't know if I can reach. I don't know if I can. Nope. Gotta take these off. There we go. I'm not focused. Okay, there we go. All right. Wow. It's still really bright in here. Oh well. As is life, right? Anyway, let's get back to it.
Did here, and I have more clips of them specifically saying
Can I ask you a
we
question,
want to
Alex?
take him out.
And I'm not trying to cut you off, but some of these questions are just because it's hard for me to find the truth, the answers on it. I know we talked about the cap. We talked about the cap in Texas, right? On I believe is it punitive damages?
Yes.
Is there a cap in Connecticut, or are you, unless it is overturned on appeal, are you on the hook for the hundreds of millions of dollars?
The short answer is they lie and say I owe $50 million in Texas. It's about 5.6. There are caps. It's in the state law. They can't overturn it.
Right.
It's different in Connecticut.
Right, because just because there's a cap doesn't mean that that's not the amount that you. That's not what that means. Sorry, guys. Oh, you got to see my cat at least.
The unfair trade practices, or CUTMA, however they call it, that is unlimited, and that is up for the judge to decide. So she's going to come back next week and probably hit me with $1 billion more. So all the other ones do have caps, but because there's 15 plaintiffs, they're all capped at, I forget the number, like $4 million. So $10 million is more money than I can get them. Of course. $50 million is more. $1 billion, it's all a joke at this point. It's like saying, we're going to cut you into 20 million pieces. Well, if you cut me in 5 pieces, I'm going to die.
Right.
So like, we're gonna drop 25 nuclear bombs on Alex Jones's house. I'm like, I think 1 nuclear bomb would probably kill me.
Probably.
So we're going to shoot 20 million bullets into you instead of 5 bullets. So
that's
this is all overkill. It's just the left having a temper tantrum. They want to scare everybody else. A bunch of other lawyers to file lawsuits to come after all the conservatives and all the nationalists and all the patriots. And I really appreciate you letting me get that out there because it's so frustrating to be.
So it's also kind of part of his political strategy to constantly tie himself to everybody else, because if you're Alex Jones, you want people to feel sympathy for you through association. You want people to think that could be me next. Guess what? Not gonna be you next. Promise you'll be fine. Alex Jones, on the other hand, he's fucked.
Kind of only have my show that has a big audience, but it's compartmentalized because of censorship. It's very hard to actually get the truth.
No,
out
it's
there
not just censorship,
so
Alex.
understand.
It's not just censorship. It's cowardice. You and I have had conversations, obviously off air, where I wouldn't say called you that, but I've said I don't agree with this. I don't like that. Remember, I told you. I remember early on the show saying I don't like that you sometimes stir up infighting with conservatives. I remember you saying, you know what, I used to do that more, and I decided the left is a more important enemy. We've had very strong disagreements. I felt compelled to have you on because some of the biggest figures in our movement.
Also, yeah, to any leftists that are watching, understand that the right coalesces every time. They will coalesce every single time. Because at the end of the day, they want to win. Just keep that in mind.
Who, by the way, agreed with all of some of your quote-unquote conspiracy theories that I thought were incorrect. They didn't have you on. It is censorship, and it's cowardice from people on the right. And by the way, I've experienced that too. I've experienced that for jokes that then people on the right will take out of context. So my issue is not so much with the left being the left, right? It's like being mad that a crocodile bites you. I'm mad with people on the right who aren't doing it. Let me ask you, Alex, really, point blank. I know you talk about appeals. How scared are you right now?
I am way more scared about the direction the country's going in. If they admit this is a formula for everybody, I mean, while the right wing laughs, some of them, and says, "Oh, it's just Alex Jones," they're on every channel saying,
a formula for everybody. An attack on me is an attack on everybody.
We're coming after everybody now with this model. And they've even got the Republican Secretary
I
of
thought
State.
I thought this was the party of personal responsibility.
The rhinos, the neocons, the rabid left allied together against the populist uprising of nationalist Americans who are peacefully trying to take our country back. So I'm way more concerned about nuclear war. I'm way more concerned about financial collapse. I mean, here's a good point, Stephen. Quite frankly, the way inflation's going, the way it accelerates towards Weimar Republic or Zimbabwe, in 10 years, there's such inflation, $1 billion will be like $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, at the current rate we're at here, so,
be like
no, I'm not scared. I am disgusted, and I really feel proud of myself. Because I've told the truth about this. I've said when I was wrong. They've created this whole synthetic identity for me.
Doesn't matter if you say that you're wrong.
And then they sat there and had to
That's
lie to
not like, dude, you're not in high school. Were you just saying like, oh, I guess I was, yeah, I guess I made a mistake. I guess I was wrong. It's not a thing. It's not a thing, man.
And suppress the truth and
you're
tell
an
I was
adult.
guilty and
Act
bring
like
this kangaroo court. So I myself can hold my head tall, but I am in general very concerned for my children, for the country in the future, because of the rapid acceleration into total and complete corruption.
And I know you have some other things you want to hit. I don't even know if we can probably show the clips on YouTube. But Gerald here, I know has a question for you. You can't see him, but he's champing at the bit. Gerald, yeah, please.
Yeah. So you said earlier that this is going to be overturned. Why do you think that it will be overturned? Not that you just have kind of this faith in that that's going to happen, but what are you guys arguing? If you can reveal that to us on how it's going to be overturned.
Well, that's an excellent question. I have talked to dozens of very well-known constitutional lawyers. I can tell you Norm Pattis is a very well-known successful lawyer around the country. He's talked to current and former judges in Connecticut and in New York, federal and state, that say this is the most insane craziness they've ever seen. The judge said in open court, and I said this months ago because she'd done rules in limine and told us what I couldn't say. She said in court, can't say you're innocent. Can't say you barely ever talked about these people. Can't say you didn't make money off of it. Can't be political, but they could hold up magazines I put out exposing Obama, but then we couldn't respond back to it. She literally tied our hands and did this. So either America's gone and completely done, or in Texas and in Connecticut, if I have the money for the appeals, that's why I want to bankrupt us right now, because they are so scared that if there's any justice left at the Texas or the Connecticut Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court, they've got to overturn this, because the deep state, the ambulance chaser brigade are openly saying they're coming after everyone with this, just like when I got censored.
So are you saying that you think the people...
Yeah, so no, they're not. They're not coming after everybody with $1 billion civil lawsuits. Understand, this is also not the government. Understand that. This is not the government coming after Alex Jones. This is individuals coming after Alex Jones. This is a civil case. This is not a criminal case.
In the appeals court, we'll see the gravity of
When
it.
he says prosecutor, that's a civil prosecutor. That is a private lawyer going after. All of those are private lawyers going after him, not a state or local what's the word I'm looking for? Like DA or something.
Is that what you're saying? Why you believe it'll be overturned?
I don't know the fix is in that high, but I know that when, okay, they've got their pound of flesh, they've demonized me, they brought back up Sandy Hook, they made a bunch of money for their charities, they got $73 million from Remington. I mean, these dead kids are cash machines for these lawyers, okay? And now nobody knows who Adam Lane
and there it is. And there it is.
And so,
because you see, now it's the kids are tools for other people making money.
Do you think it's because they want to make an example of you, and then when it comes down to the actual constitutional law, it won't hold water? Is that why?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, well, they have to, or the country's over. I mean, you have to understand, when I say kangaroo court, when I say show trial, I mean, this has never before
Why
been
is it
done.
kangaroo court? What kangaroos are we to people?
Exhaustive. And then they let them use the discovery that they said we didn't give them to the jury. They could put on evidence. We couldn't challenge the evidence, and I couldn't testify. That's why I didn't testify when it was time for our quote case. It was only a hearing and damages. The judge found me guilty. Again, since when? Well, the judge knows best.
Well, yeah, it's a hearing for damages. It's not like there's not you're past the point of making your argument at that point. You're into, now we need to assess how much your damages are like worth, basically. Like you lost the argument already. What Alex Jones is complaining about is that they wouldn't let him argue again his case. You already argued your case and you lost. You already lost your defamation lawsuit. You already took hold the L, my guy.
They can't do that. You know, if I was caught bank robbing or something, and I ran off to another country, then you can have default judgments to say, take my house. Because I'm not there. There's video of me robbing the bank. I've left the country. They can sue. They can get the house. That's a default judgment. I was there. I participated. I did the depositions. I had my crew members go there. I spent millions of dollars on lawyers. But because there was no case there, they were forced to default because they decided I was the supervillain and they wanted to set this precedent. So yes, all the lawyers agree that if we file a good appeal with the hundreds of bad things they did, that it must absolutely be either partially or totally.
So yeah, the new case, the case specifically, because he already got caught. He already took his L in Texas for the defamation suit. What this suit is essentially saying is, based on that precedent, these people who are involved in the exact same thing also should be awarded the same what's the word? The same case, basically. You know, because only a few people did the Texas case, but it was all on the exact same thing. That's why it's all falling under the same umbrella. So, like, because he was found guilty of that, he can't, you know, he was found guilty of defamation in Texas for the same thing he's being found guilty in Connecticut for, in terms of defamation. So it's like you already took your L, bro. Like, this is your second L.
Overturned. And if it isn't overturned, no, I'm not scared, Stephen, because I've said on air the truth. I have less than $1.5 million in my bank account. Sounds like a lot to the average working guy, and I get it. With all my bills and crew and all this, that's on empty. My company has less than $1 million in it right now, and that's to buy product and pay payroll and fund our operation. So I never did this to make money. They had all these fake numbers. They had all our finances. They said he made $61 million last year. Our gross was $61 million. I paid myself $200,000 last year. It's all in the bankruptcy court. They know it. They know it's true. Was there a year that I paid myself $12 million? Absolutely. The year of the divorce with my ex-wife 6 years ago. Thank God it was the Trump era. For the first time ever, we had all this extra money.
You would have to say, no, you don't
Wine more, man.
But you absolutely deserve to earn a living if you have millions of people who are listening and the amount of work that you put into
a living. What do you think Steven Crowder thinks a living is? Because he'll say you have all the right to earn a living, but he doesn't support. But do you think Steven Crowder supports a livable wage? Do you think Steven Crowder supports that? Yeah, you know he doesn't.
to it. I understand it. This is what I do here as well. Conservatives are the only ones, surprisingly, the people who support free enterprise, where we feel like, because our audience is largely working class, you want to say, look, don't get mad at me because I make this money. Because there's a huge difference between 1 year making $12 million and a several $100 million judgment. You know who makes $12 million every single year? Colbert. Fallon. No one cares. And I just hope that people on the right don't use that as an attack. Well, you know what? Oh, maybe he'll go cry into his millions. That is not the point. And just for some inside baseball, for people who don't necessarily know, want to corroborate some of what you're saying?
Well, first of all, I don't mind. He can cry into his billions all he wants. What I have a problem with is him pretending like he's some small business owner. They always do this. Guys like Crowder will always tie themselves to actual small business owners and pretend that they're in the same class. They're not. Crowder makes exponentially more than your local electrician. But he's going to pretend like he makes the same amount as that local electrician.
Yeah, you can't prove that you didn't make money off of Sandy Hook. Just like I can't prove that I didn't make money off of that the guy who was fired from Vox, who started the Vox Apocalypse. Why? Because this enterprise, the only way that we make profit is people signing up because they want to hear what I have to say. And sometimes what I have to say involves a specific person. Of course, it would be hundreds of thousands of people if you were to look over the course of our entire program. But that gets pulled in, and they say, you can't say that you didn't make money off of insert whatever story you covered here. We've had that happen on the website.
Well,
just to give you an example, just really quickly.
Well, you made the money, man.
Sue, because they say, well, this actually, we don't like this article that went up, and we want you to prove that you haven't made money off of it. And it's like, well, that article maybe had a few 100,000 views or something like that. I don't remember. I'm just giving you an example. I don't remember the specific example. And they were trying to say, so you make money. You make money off of this. Your whole company is making money off. No. They don't let you parse it. That's the lie. Because you were broadcasting, and the broadcast always makes money, and even when you were covering Sandy Hook. That's why they say, if you can't prove the separation of all...
Yeah, because that's kind of how it works. At the end of the day, that's kind of how it works. If I made any money on this stream saying anything that I'd say on this stream, guess what? That's me making money off of what I said on stream. Okay, so the rest of this seems like a good bit of whining. And also we're a little over time. So I'm gonna wrap this up. We're gonna call it here. Wine Fest is over. I'd love to continue watching, but my brain is starting to kind of melt a little bit. So, but yeah. But either way, if you enjoyed, if you watched it all, I really appreciate you. If you enjoyed and you're not already following, I implore you, please follow. It helps the channel out a lot. I have a full-time job and, a lot of other normal things going on in life. I do this as a hobby, but also as something that I've always wanted to do. So, please, if you can, it doesn't take a lot of effort, hit that follow button. Help me out. Help me make this the thing that I have to wake up and do every day instead of the bullshit I usually have to deal with at a normal job. Either way, you have yourself a nice weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you again for watching. And see you next time. Goodbye.